boorish behavior and wrote a manifesto about what's been going on. That's the truth. You remember that episode? Maybe you ought to go back in time for those of you who weren't around for that. But I called up RBN because I looked on their website and I was looking for a rate card to see what they were charging for hours and stuff. And there was a time I was going to be on GCN, and Trudeau and Anderson were going to work on having me on to do a sports show because they wanted diversified programming. They didn't necessarily want to be a Patriot broadcasting network. They'll take anything that's, that has a pulse and comes down that road, but they wanted something they hadn't had in the sports, and I was like, yeah, that's fine with me. Again, I'll do anything. I'll step outside this regular programming I do because, I got a life and I'm enjoying, what I can. And then Trudeau left, and that's where my stock was, and that was the end of it. But anyway, I had gotten a rate card from GCN, because that's the way you do business. And what that tells you is how much an hour's slot will cost you. In other words, whether it's Monday or Sunday or Saturday, it's day and time, etc., etc. Okay, do you want to be up for 1 hour, 2 hours, prime time, whatever, graveyard, whatever it is. So RBN didn't have one. So I call up and I talk to this guy Michael. And you can look on the website. His last name's there. I'm not going there anymore. And I call him up and I said, Michael, do you have a rate card? Well, what are you interested in? I'm saying, well, I just want to know what you're charging for whatever hours you have available. Well, it differs between the days. And I said, that's why you have a rate card, Michael. I understand that. Do you have a rate card? Oh, no, you got to talk to John. See, the whole deal is you got to go through John. Because there's a sliding scale for everybody. And Wing TV talked about a time when Jack Blood jumped from RBN to GCN, and that slot was open, and Stat Miller approached Wing TV to come on, and they're like, well, we want what you gave Blood, because it's going to be 3 hours every day, and that's a lot of time and such. And they said that Stat Miller flipped out, how dare you ask? It's like, well, then, park it, man. We're not going to come. And they didn't. Because that's the way things are run there. It's what he decides if he wants to put the scepter out or not. So, we went back and forth, and, I'm like, Michael is their bitch. That's what he is, And I'm like, okay, fine. And I didn't want to talk to Stat Miller because I was fishing anyway. So I said, well, listen, just contact me at this email, and he never did. Now, what happened lately was I got an email from a brother in Atlanta who has been listening to this political cesspool show or something like that and felt that it was anti-black. So he sends an email to Michael, the RBN bitch, and this is his response. Thank you for responding back to me. Well, that's redundant, isn't it? Because responding is the same as getting back to me. That's okay. At least you didn't write it in crayon. It says, I don't see how the show is insulting to any non-white person. With a question mark. Well, that was a statement, and you don't need a question mark. It wasn't interrogatory. Well, maybe you should look at it through the eyes of someone who's black. All right. I know he does say on his website that he is pro-white, but that is not racist. I know James Edwards on his show also states he is not a racist, a skinhead, or in ties in any way with a racist organization. James, like many others, including different ethnic groups, don't believe in political correctness. There's this thing about being pro-white, and that's fine, okay? But then you can walk it really tight, and then it becomes, obviously, white supremacy. This guy, I think, gets the message across. He ain't Hal Turner, but he ain't too many genes removed. Then it goes on to say, the political cesspool, comma, is currently on an FCC licensed station. Why is there a comma in there? All right, that's okay. So what? And you spelled license wrong. Now, I don't know if you know, but the FCC is very harsh on its rules and guidelines with an exclamation point. Well, thank you for being condescending and letting us know about that, Michael, because how dumb do you think the brother is? And I'm not going to call him by his name, all right, because I just don't want to have to bring him into the fray. If in any way they just believe the political cesspool insults any non-white and is racist, there will be no warning. No, my bad? There will be no warning. No, my bad? The show will be pulled immediately off the air by the FCC. Is that right? Is that right? They're on a licensed station and the FCC would come down on them? No, my bad. Oh, God, this is pathetic. This is what he writes, okay? No ifs, ands, or buts, just yanked off. Here we go. For example, look what happened to Don Imus, another with a comma, when he made a comment, comma, that people felt was out of hand. He was gone. He's back. The political cesspool has a huge variety of different guests, including a lot of different writers, activists, and elected officials on many different issues we face today. This is the best. Let me ask you a question. Do you want illegal immigrants, in parentheses, let's say from Mexico, here in America? Best, Michael. What the hell has that got to do with anything? Do you believe this kind of crap? This is RBN's bitch. What a jerk. God, could it be any more condescending to him? Honest to God. Well, it's, what you see is what you get. Now, here's another thing which I'm sure will, get everybody PO'd. I was exchanging some emails with a listener, and I was saying that probably with what I'm telling you, and that is you're not beating this thing by force, that you're going to all probably stop listening because it isn't, tickling your ears. And I liken it, to a guy that has a long-time doctor. He goes to, and the doctor did an examination, says you got 6 months to live. And the patient looks at him and says, well, I don't like that, prognosis. And I don't believe it. So he goes off and he finds some doctor who tells him something different. He dies in 6 months, But at least somebody told you something different. That's the way you want it. That's the way you're going to get it, and that's fine. But I had told this individual that probably that a lot of, I guess, you new listeners who can't stand the fact that I don't play nice with the networks, blah, 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 and who don't really have a history with me and all this, what's going on, are going to take a hike. And you got to take a hike, you got to take a hike. If you want to come back, I'll still be around. No big deal. Because sooner or later, you're going to find out. You're going to find out. There's no two ways about it, and I ain't wrong. Well, anyway, I said that probably people would peel off, and he wrote, well, I hope more youngsters find you before their hopes are built up too high, because sadly, I agree with you. And this is what I wrote back to him. I said, the youngsters are the final problem. As I read in Carlson's Undercover, this new group of 9/11 truthers, etc., are crypto-patriots. They wrap themselves in a flag with a hip-hop gangsta head. I contend that when Jones flipped his position about government and began supporting Ron Paul, that he was deliberately cultivating a new wave of cement-head protesters. Jones will get people killed in time. And he's not doing this on his own. Ironically, the brown shirt mentality he's feeding into will become the very fascist they are supposed to resist. Sound wacky? Wait and see. This incessant belligerence to law enforcement, a growing obsession with martial law, and the perception of all threats coming from without makes for a very nasty goat-head stew. Despite how you feel about that now, I guarantee you will remember I warned you about this. I arrived at this extrapolation having gone cold turkey of Jones in 2004, then being made aware that he had become Paul's, campaign manager, in quotes. I couldn't believe how he morphed in 3 years.